Welcome to Gen Authentic, where we believe that everything you do takes work, whether it's your job, your relationships, your hobbies, and even self-love. That all takes work, and we're here to challenge you to do that work more authentically. Thank you so much for joining us for another episode here at Gen Authentic. Like everything we want in life, if we want something we've never had, we have to be willing to do something we've never done to get it. When it comes to hobbies, there is no difference. Our guest today not only has overcome many obstacles to be where she is today, but she has fought like hell to be there. Jayme's philosophy is that you can have anything that you want in life if you're willing to do the hard work for it. Today, she will share her journey with us to help inspire you to take this thing we call authentic working and apply it to all areas of your life. Thank you so much for joining today, Jayme. I'm so excited to have you here on the show. Why don't you tell our listeners a little bit about yourself?
Yeah, no, I'm glad to be here, Stef. Thanks for asking me to be a part of this awesome networking that you do for everyone. It's really cool when people can connect. And as you know, that's pretty much what I'm about. I am an extreme adventure athlete who in June will become the first U.S. female to row both the Atlantic and Pacific Oceans. So quite the undertaking, and I do it always for raising money for charity, and my charity is always for eating disorders. So I've done races for the past 15 years, and all the proceeds and experience and really everything I do is to gain knowledge to help those struggling and to raise awareness for a nonprofit that we're starting here in Colorado to help these people that are struggling with eating disorders.
That is so great. I love hearing about that and how you were able to take something that was super hard and for a lot of people can be defeating and really, turn it into this incredible messaging that you're doing and the work that you do to help people who do struggle with eating disorders. And definitely we're going to talk more about that and the charity that you do. But before, why don't you tell us a little bit more about like what this means to row across the freaking Pacific? I keep telling everyone you're going to swim across the ocean because that's what it feels like to me. So what does it mean to boat? Like, what does that look like? And so tell us more about that adventure.
Yeah, of course. Well, honestly, I think if you swam, you might go faster than rowing a boat. Boats are very slow. And what we like to always tell people is you can crawl faster than you can row an ocean boat. So what we're doing is we are starting in Monterey, California, and we will be rowing west to Kauai, and we will land at Hanalei Bay in Kauai, Hawaii, which is 2,800 miles across the ocean. So you will encounter, we do training for ocean survival, our VHF radio communication certifications. We have to be certified in many different areas before we can even embark on a journey like this. And so besides the training and the physical aspect that comes along with it, there is a lot of mental preparation in order to get you to the starting line and to obviously, as you can imagine, get yourself across 2,800 miles in the middle of nothing, where you usually don't even see fish, right? It's you're out there, and when we crossed the Atlantic, we saw a total of like 10 fish in the entire 3,000-mile journey. So you're out there really isolated, and I do mixed pairs teams or pairs teams. So it's a team of two. And we will be rowing an ocean rowing boat across, and we do schedules. So shift changes are going to be 2 hours on the oars. The other person will be 2 hours off sleeping, and then we switch, and we do that consecutively. This will take us anywhere from 45 to 60 days to land in Hawaii. So a lot of prep, a lot of interesting life aboard, and it's a physical challenge. You're rowing 12 to 16 hours a day, every day until you make it to the other side. So,
So I just have to know, like, what is the joy? I've never understood the people that say they get high from running either. I'm going to be real honest. So, I mean, that's crazy, right? So it's 12, 16 hours of just your arms going. So, what part of that is like the most enjoyable to you? And like, what do you feel like, what kind of endorphins do you get from that?
Well, really, all the emotions going across you when you're going across the ocean are pretty much like, really, why did I sign up for this? How many more miles do we have left? So you celebrate the little wins because that's how you start getting a pride throughout when you start losing a little bit of that sense of why am I still doing this? After the first 2 miles, that's where I go. And so, with, 27, 98 to go, you're like, okay, how can we make this possible? And that's when you start celebrating, like we've hit 50 miles, cool. We'll do like a little woohoo, good job team. Then you hit your first 100 and then you hit your first 1,000 and then you hit your, second, 2,000, then you do a countdown, right? So it's those little wins that keep you motivated while you're out there. And the accomplishment, like when you hit the other side, you have now achieved something most people can't even dream. Most people that I tell that I'm going to go row the ocean, when I started this endeavor in 2017, no one believed me because you don't even have these boats in America, and so we had never seen one. I'm from Colorado; it's a landlocked state. No, no one could even fathom what we're doing. So in 2021, when that came around, and I rode the Atlantic, it is just you're accomplishing something that you didn't think anyone would have any idea of what it is, could even fathom you're doing it because it's so obscure. And then with the issues that I face with being a terrible asthmatic, I was born with 67% of my lung capacity. And then after contracting COVID several times, I now have 37% remaining. So on top of trying to do feats like this, having asthma issues, I've struggled with eating disorders for 23 years. And every single thing that I do is pushing myself to the limits so I can be that role model and I can be that spokesperson to show how you can achieve these things when you have adversities against you, So that's the pride that I get from it, is I find a new way. So when I rode the Atlantic, for example, I was the first person who's ever had to make their own food. Most people go to the store and they can get, Mountain House or Mountain House, Backpackers Pantry, like freeze-dried food companies and food that's already pre-made. But with my disorders and my health, I can't do that. So I had to be the first person to ever make their own food and dissect the food down and build it so it matches the micros and macros that I need for the dietary composition while I'm exerting that much energy. And so where no one again thought I would do it, when I got off the boat on the other side, I had lost the least amount of weight that they had seen. Even being an eating disorder person, I lost the least amount of weight. I got off the boat and I looked exactly the same. And they had no idea how mentally I was okay, how physically I looked exactly fine. And it was because I push myself to those limits to know what it takes to eat, to know what it takes for myself, to know when to eat, what I need to burn, how my body's going to calculate and utilize all the energy that I've put into it. And I think it's all those little things that gain that sense of pride because you're pushing yourself outside of a boundary that you shouldn't be able to. That's even unfathomable to think of all the small intricacies you have to focus on to achieve a big picture like this. And then taking it to where you can equate it and help others that struggle so they then can see there are multiple options despite the little small box they're given. You can make anything happen if you're willing to think outside that box. So that's where my pride comes in, and that's what pushes me to keep doing these, is helping others, gaining that knowledge so I can continue helping not only people with eating disorders, but anyone that has a dietary block or anyone that has like a mental block from being able to do things. It's like, how can we work with you so we can achieve your goals and so you're not limited?
I love that. And I always talk about like living a limitless life and removing those limits no matter kind of what life's throwing at you. So I love that that's your messaging and what you're focused on. And you touched on something that was a question that I had. So you're in landlocked Colorado. How the hell do you even find this hobby? I mean, I know there's lakes and, I used to kayak in Colorado, but like how do you find ocean rowing hobby in Colorado?
Well, simple answer, you don't. So I started racing years ago. So what got me into starting to become an extreme athlete is I did not have any ambition to be an extreme athlete. I had just gotten out of the hospital for the third time with my eating disorder, which almost killed me. And I decided that I wasn't going to live a life that didn't mean something. I didn't want to have regrets at the end of my life. I was working, 16-hour days, every day of the year. At work, I lost friends, I lost opportunities because I was just devoted to one thing, and it wasn't keeping my eating disorder down. It wasn't keeping it at bay, so it would constantly spike up. So I sought out these little races in order to keep my accountability on training. So then I would keep signing up for something else to keep me in the gym and train, which allowed me to not worry about what I ate and to work on that mental aspect of the eating disorder alongside this process. So, I first started with, 5Ks when those became like the first new and upcoming thing, so years ago. And then I did an OCR race, and it wasn't the challenge I was seeking and needing, because I was expecting I want to hit my boundaries. I want to find them, and I want to push past them and break them, and then hit another boundary and keep pushing past until you don't have any, right? And so I just kept signing up for harder and harder and harder races. And the community that I'm involved in, my friends are my family, and they are these humans that find crazy things and say, "Hey, Jayme, how about it?" And I'm like, "Let's do it." So I signed up without ever have seen a boat.
What's the OCR race?
OCR racing is obstacle course racing.
Oh, okay. Like Tough Mudder.
Tough Mudder, Spartans, okay. Warrior Dash. Yep. All of those. Yep. That's where it all started. And it was all because of Spartan and the community I met within the Spartan community on how we fledged to be where I'm at now.
That is so cool. I did do one of those inflatable 5K runs. That was so much fun. And like the bubble the ones. Now I don't run. I leisurely walk and look cute and watch everyone else's stuff. But the inflatable one was it was way more difficult than I thought it was going to be, because you still have to climb up inflatable things and do all that kind of stuff. So that, yeah, it was fun. It was funny when all that kind of came up, and I feel like 13, 14, 15. And it was like, I feel like every weekend in Denver, there was some sort of 5K that you could do, whether it was fun or Tough Mud or Spartan racing,
Yeah, no, that's awesome. I've seen those. I've never done it. I thought the inflatables, like you actually had to wear. So this is what my mind did. I was like, oh, you probably wear like pool floaties. Is that like what everyone's just, like the Cupid run where it's underwear? I honestly thought inflatables was like costumes people ran in.
I love that. Yeah, because you're like 100 miles ahead of that, which is great. I love it. And really just anything to keep our bodies moving, because when our bodies are moving, our mind is energized, and we're not getting stuck in those funks. So, I really appreciate you discussing and sharing your eating disorder, and how really after that third time being in the hospital, that's what launched you into realizing that you needed to find something in your life to obsess about that wasn't your food, your body, right? Now, what you chose to obsess about helped your food, helped your body, right? Helped you see your body in strength. So when you're talking about your experiences with eating disorders, when did you kind of first become aware of you having an eating disorder, and what steps did you take to, address that, identify that?
So I got sick, officially sick when I got hospitalized was when I was 13, when I was a freshman in February, right before we were getting ready to graduate in May, or, obviously in the school year, I should say. And it was before that. It would have been in 6th grade, so about 3 years prior. I always kind of knew I did body conscious things, and I always was very self-aware. However, when you're a teenager in 6th grade, you go to your health classes, you go and start learning about all these changes that I don't like, I don't want a part of, and anything really outside my control is not how I function very well. So that was kind of where it started on. I heard once upon a time about a certain ideal body weight you had to be at, where some of those changes would start taking place. And so my brain was like, well, if I don't do that, then I can remain small. But and that, so it started, I started tapering at that point, but it wasn't a hospitalization like mentality until I was a freshman when it kind of took over. But yeah, it was, it ruined a lot of things having, having that mentality at such a young age. Your brain doesn't completely develop, your bones have issues. You can't have kids. There's so many things, that it starts preventing. And yeah, so it's been a long time, and now you have to live with some of those choices that you made when you were younger.
Yeah, you speak about control and how when things are out of your control, that is, that is not okay with you, and that's not how you feel that you thrive. And I think that, my personal experience with my own eating disorder and then the eating disorders that I've been around with other people, primarily that core fundamental thing is control. So for me it was anxiety, depression, and it was the overeating and overeating so much that I would get sick. And whether I intentionally got sick at times or because I had just binged so much, my body got, I just got sick. It was because I wanted to control what I ate, how I prepared that food. And so do you think that was a part of it because your body was changing so much in middle school, especially as girls? We have so many, I mean, I know boys do too, but we had all these things going on. Things are growing, things are bleeding, it's happening. And so is that kind of where you would tie it, is just, because your body was revolting against you in every way that you thought, you're like, man, at least if I can fit in this kind of picturesque model, then I am in control of it.
Yeah, that was most of it. And, so you have the body, the media is influencing everything at that time when you're trying to be whatever they're telling you to be, and or what's acceptable. And I did gymnastics when I was younger, very
Mm.
very low level gymnastics, in the sense of I only did tumbling, and I wasn't very good. Everyone else was much better, but I wasn't very good. But I was a very muscular kid because I had done that since, at a young age for like 10, 11 years. And, I did sports and stuff like that. So where I was just a solid brick compared to most of my classmates, that's when you start, media's telling you one thing, and now you've got that middle school girl mentality of comparing and girls just being mean. And, when I don't fit into that mold, it starts seeping in. And then the one thing you can control about it's like, oh, it's my body that's reflecting that. And at the same time, taking the most important element that girls think about is boys, and getting that approval. And if you don't look like everyone else, you're not going to be with, you're not going to have the same relationships and things. So it was all of those factors that you try to control so you can live and manage within that society.
Yeah, I mean, 100%. And I'm going to be honest, more girls in middle school made fun of the fact that had tiny boobs than any boy ever did. And then you're changing in front of them. So I absolutely agree that dynamic of not only what we're seeing on 17 magazine and Cosmo, because that's like all we were reading at the time and seeing the airbrush. And then you're changing in middle school locker rooms with, other girls, and hormones are going crazy. I mean, it's real, and it happening at that age when your frontal lobe isn't developed, when you aren't able to make those better decisions and realize that your body does not determine your value. It takes a long time to get through that. You mentioned that struggle in society. What do you think society can do as a whole to better understand the struggle with eating disorders?
I think the first thing that, like, probably the most important thing that people need to understand is like to watch their words, right? Most people will just say anything, and they don't always think of the outcome or the problem that can incur, since I don't know what mental state you're showing up here today in. You don't know what mental state I'm showing up here in today. And I could say one word that has nothing to do with anything, but yet it's a triggersome word because no one knows where someone else is at internally. So I think as a society, if we start just being accountable and speaking with intention, that way you're holding yourself to a level that you're being accepting and vocal and communicating in a way that's not going to be hurtful to any person that you encounter. And it's not always easy, but obviously certain phrases, anything with judgment, anything speaking on an action someone else does, or a physical characteristic, or even something as little as a word, a way that they articulate certain words, like something so simple. If there's any criticism or even any comment, I think if we just start limiting comments about someone else, it just doesn't need to be said. They're aware. And I think that mindfulness as a society and internally is where it has to start. And then taking accountability to always speak with intention to make sure you're saying appropriate things so you're not coming off that way. That way, even if someone does hear something offensive, they genuinely know from your character and your integrity that you never meant anything to be offensive. Ergo, they're more likely not going to take anything you said as offense because you don't mean it that way. So I really think it just comes down to speaking with intention and understanding an eating disorder is an addiction, right? And it's something that I've had to explain to several different people in addiction, because if you're someone that struggles with substance abuse, the difference in the types of addiction is someone with substance abuse has to refrain from taking that substance. They have to just stay away from it. Mm-hmm. An eating disorder person has to face that fear multiple times a day, every single day for the rest of their life. So where it's a little different, where if people were more aware of understanding, we face our fears on a minute-to-minute basis, honestly. And it's really consuming of what that does to your brain on top of trying to manage just normal life. So I think if people would just be a little bit more mindful that, it's not like you can just change it. It's not like it's the easiest thing in the world that you can just go eat, because our brains don't work that way. So just being patient with people and not making the comments and being mindful and just understanding they're probably doing the best they can. A good example is if I go to a restaurant, I don't eat at many restaurants because I have some stomach disorders that I'm allergic to food and some other things going on. So it makes it really hard. So when I decide to actually trust a restaurant to make my food and make an alternative, and they say they will, and then it comes out with something I can't eat, you can see it. I get anxious, I get anxiety, and no, I haven't ingested it, but it's the fact that I tried to relinquish something so personal of myself and allow trust into someone else, and you break that trust. Most people are like, oh, it's not a big deal. It's just a little bit of, I'm lactose intolerant. So if they put cheese on it, they're like, oh, it's just a little cheese, pick it off. Don't devalue and degrade the issue here, because that could make me really, really sick. So it is kind of a big deal. So I think it's just being mindful that it is a process and not to make a comment like we're working through it best as we can as well. So just that patience and understanding that our brain also amplifies some of that on top of a little issue. Mm-hmm. It makes it a really big issue. So it doesn't need to be downgraded. And I think just that little awareness, I think, would really help people not feel judged. They'd feel more accepted to be able to go out and eat with other people when they struggle. So there's that comfortability factor, which then keeps them accountable to eat. And if we can keep having that cultivation of that accountability on everybody just to, do their thing, everyone will start thriving.
I think you gave some really great examples there of specific ways that we can improve our support overall as a society, specifically talking about limiting comments about anything about another person, not just their body, not what they're eating, not how they're dressing, but just stop talking about them. One of the things that really stuck to me about talking about other people is, when I was talking to my dad about pronouns and how people's having, fluid pronouns. And I was like, Dad, if you don't talk about people and you're only talking to them, pronouns don't really matter. And so I said, so don't worry about what you're supposed to call someone or not, because if you don't talk about them, you don't use pronouns. Like Jayme, you and I have not used pronouns in this conversation at all, communicating with one another. And so it's a non-issue. Race, non-issue. Disorders, addictions, all that kind of stuff, it's a non-issue when you're only talking to people and not about them. So I think really that not only would help the understanding and support of eating disorders, but that just goes to advocate for a society that is more focused on building relationships instead of building ourselves. And I think that that is just the most important thing to do to have that society. What advice would you have for individuals who may be struggling with an eating disorder or for their loved ones?
Um, my big thing is for anyone that hears me, knows of me, or any of that, I always tell them, I'm always available. That's to me one of the biggest things is knowing someone, whoever you are, have the ability to call someone, whomever they are, if you just need help. You've got someone in your corner, despite, the message or whatever, you at least know someone's there to listen. Or so that's always my biggest thing is I'm always here. You can post my information, obviously, so people can get in contact with me. And I'm always readily available for anyone and everyone as they do. But individually, if you're not to a place like that, the biggest thing that I think you can do is you can stop the shame that you're going through it, right? I mean, we don't necessarily blame ourselves. Like, we don't blame ourselves for being how we are, but we shame ourselves and we bully ourselves and we tear ourselves down in order to be different, to be this ideal of whatever is in our brain. So I think if we stop shaming and saying that, you will start to at least gain a bearing of what you want. You need to look and see what do I want in my life? Who do I want to be? And that's like how I started getting better is how do I want to be remembered? What do I want to accomplish in my life? And can I accomplish any of that if I stay sick? So the big thing that most people come to me and they do struggle, I don't necessarily try and find what started or what was the cause of their eating disorder. It's how can we figure it out now and move forward so you can manage and grow and get better constantly, because that's in the past. Like, what can we do now? And most of the time, starting with where do you want to go? Like, what do you want to do? Okay, now we have a foundation to build off. Okay, now let's either make a meal plan, make an action plan. Let's do a follow-up, remedy and build this, cultivate this environment that's going to be successful individually for you because it's based on what you want out of your life. So I think it's really first and foremost, know someone's there to, break down and just what do you want for yourself? And then it's baby steps. It's one day at a time. That's the same for every addiction. You're not going to solve it all overnight, and it's going to take a long time. Like I said, I have suffered for 23 years, and I have been out of the hospital for 14, but I still struggle on a daily basis, little things. However, I wouldn't be here 23 years later if I expected it all overnight. It has taken a journey to get here, and it will continue taking a journey, but you have to actively just, okay, what am I going to work on today? Start small, and then it will grow and evolve. And, over time, you will be, leaps and bounds further than you were.
Well, congratulations on that and for being here and fighting and advocating for yourself. When you were your own worst enemy and you had to stand up to advocate, it's like this huge internal struggle. And so I just, want to stop and really congratulate you on how hard that is and how, proud I am to hear your story. And, I can tell in yourself that you have pride in that. And I just think that alone in itself is amazing and lets other people know no matter where they are today, there is this opportunity for them. And so I so appreciate you sharing that. And so tell me more about how this all comes together. So, you got out of the hospital, you knew that you wanted more in your life. And so you started doing the races, you started doing that. And now, you've already, I'm going to say swim again. You already swam across the Atlantic. You boated across the Atlantic. Now you're doing the Pacific. Kind of how does all that tie together when it comes to staying focused on not falling back into that eating disorder? And like how does that, as you're on the Pacific, how are you thinking about the eating disorder, or do you try not to focus on it? What does that look like for you?
I would say there's your eating disorder is always in the back of your mind. Like,
Mm-hmm.
even if you're not focused on it, it's there some way. This multitasking brain of ours, it is always there, and you don't even have to scratch the surface. So for something like this, last time my family was terribly worried because I had never done anything this big. I've done big events, but not this big. And so they were worried that I was going to come back emaciated and just ready to go into the hospital. And because out there, you have the option. Am I going to eat? Am I not going to eat? And I can tell you it's very tempting because I'm doing everything I love. I can not eat. I can restrict. I can work out. I can just go to town. So it cultivates a very thriving environment for someone who wants to be an eating disorder. So it's very challenging. So I don't like to have things that tell me I can't do something. That's my biggest trigger. So that's why I keep pushing and pushing because, again, like I said, I don't want a boundary. And I knew this was going to be challenging. Being gone in a different country for, 10, 20 days, that's hard enough because you're trying to eat within places that don't necessarily have your comfort food. You can't read all of the, when it's not in your language or your, metric system, you can't really equate, calories or what you're trying to eat and stuff very well. So it just makes it really stressful. So now when you're on a boat, now you're just like, well, great. You have to eat so much a day in order to not die because you're exerting so many calories every day. So it is a really, really tricky medium, but it's something that I was willing to push the envelope for because of the knowledge and the help I can get for other people. So to me, I was actually asked this by my aunt recently, and she asked, is it really worth the risk to help, to try and go out there and help other people? Is it really worth dying? And yes, it is. Because to me, if I can go and gain some knowledge to help even one person, it makes your life worthwhile, right? So one person didn't have to struggle like I have for so long. And I think that's where it all encompasses, because every single day you're thinking about your eating. And then when you're out there, every single day you're thinking about your eating. And then you have to make that choice every day to eat. Even when you know you don't have to. And that's where, I've had to learn over all these years what food my body works well with, what food doesn't work well with my body. On the oars, I know exactly when I need to eat and how much I need to eat before each shift and what part of the day, because I'm that in tune with how my body processes fuel. And so that it's like everything of my life has revolved around eating, and out on the water, it's no different. You have to eat to be able to push, and I want to be a machine. I just want to be the best robotic human that's consistent as a teammate can be, because that's how you have success. And that's where you can beat the eating disorder mind. If you can think on, okay, I get to make my own food, so I know exactly what's in there. No one's tricked me into something. I know I'm not going to be eating something my body can't handle, so I can take a breath, rest in that comfort, and then I'm like, okay, I know I now need to eat. So I've solved one hurdle. I trust my food. Now I've got to trust myself that I'm going to eat the food. And so once you do that, you do it every day you get to the other side, and you now have that knowledge, 10 days in, when I was now fresh out of my fresh fruits and my protein bars, I now was having to eat food. And I didn't want to, in all honesty. I was struggling with it for hours. But you have to. And so that thought pops up every couple of days, and you start thinking, what's the purpose? Why am I here? What am I going to achieve? If I don't eat, I'm not going to make it across alive, or we're going to be out here for 90 days, and who wants to do that? So it's really, everything is encompassed with that thought of your eating on everything you do, and you can't get away from it. You have to learn how to manage the thoughts, because they're going to be there regardless.
That is really good, thought process and how you think through that and how you connect the dots, and that, you literally are eating for your survival out there. Because if you don't eat, it's not about looking a certain way. It's not about fitting into a certain piece of clothing. It is between you, like life and death. And so I love that parallel that you painted. Something that you said about your aunt and when she talked to you about why, why is it worth you not only putting yourself through that struggle with the eating disorder, but then just alone, like for anyone completely healthy with no food issues or nothing like that. This is a crazy feat, crazy journey. So when you talked to your aunt and said, you're doing this to spread a message, you're doing this because you want to help, and if one person can see your story and they can fight and come up against their eating disorder, it's worth it. So tell me about this charity. I know that you guys are launching this new charity. You've always done your charities for eating disorders, but now you're doing your own program. So what does that charity look like? And tell us more about that.
Yeah, no, I'm glad you asked. It's going to be a long-term residency up in the mountains here in Colorado. And it's essentially like everyone's going to get their own studio apartment kind of a deal. So that way they have their own kitchen. And it will be a program that when people come, it's devised individually with me. At the facility, there is, an amazing gym. We do it, it's in the outdoors, so it's secluded from society, but yet it will be integrated with other programs we have there, like outdoor adventure guiding programs and things, because that way we have all of the ways that someone can pick to recover. It is an a la carte, pick your own recovery, essentially, and that's the only way you can ever help someone truly on their road to success, because I can't teach them out of a book what statistics have said, because not everyone is a statistic. Everyone's brain works differently. So you meet with me, we devise an individual program when you come in, and it's like, if you want to go do yoga, if you want to go rock climbing and go, swim across the lake, cool, we'll make that happen. And we're going to teach you why you need to eat, because it will show you why functionally you need to do these things, not just telling you to tell you, but this way you can experience why, and that way you can start learning to adapt within your body and learning that inner self-awareness. So that way, yeah, okay, if you didn't eat for a day, you know your limit and you can't do that very long. So that's where the whole program is to find sense of self away from everyone else and have wilderness therapy tied in, because that's really where you're just going to find yourself to be able to learn that tool. I call it my toolkit. You learn those little tools of your triggers and you put it all together. So that way, when you go out to society, you know how to combat the triggers that you might be facing, but you have to learn what they are first. So it's just a cool place that like-minded people can come and have an environment of complete trust and the great outdoors, and they will be, around people who have a shared interest of the great outdoors. So you're being able to integrate slowly, but in a way that has nothing to do with societal norms or anything. So it gives you that comfort, and you can recover at your own pace. So it has a lot to offer, which I really like. And it's so individualized that people will learn. We will set you up to be whatever you want to be, because that's the whole point. When you know that, and when you have steps towards that, you have a purpose. And that's the whole point of living, is if you have a purpose. So we want to help people find that, to want to get better and to stay better and to continue on.
Oh, I just love that. That is such an incredible program that you're doing. So is this something that's like active now that people can come, or is this something that's going to be coming soon? Or what's the timeline for people to actually be able to start this recovery process?
So we have people reach out to me now to help with the mental aspect of things. We are launching when I get home. We are going to launch. I won't have the facility will not be set up yet. That will probably be a year or so out. We're hoping a year. But people will be able to, on a small occasion, if I can help, if they're in that situation, I can do more one-on-one stuff here, like smaller retreats, a week at a time, 2 weeks at a time, to come and actually have that one-on-one with me. And then, so it'll be a lot smaller scale, but at least it gives people something. And then I still do online stuff like that now, and treatment and stuff like that until we have a bigger facility. So that way we don't have to hold off to not help people. We want to start helping people as soon as possible, as soon as they have a need. So that's what, so it'll be rolling out in over part, but when I get home, we will be opening that up to obviously take more people and help whichever capacity we can do.
So where can people, so two questions on this. Where can people find you to connect? And how can people donate to help invest in this charity that you're wanting to put together?
No, that is awesome. People can follow all my stories on my social media, which is just Jayme Linker on Facebook or linker.jayme on Instagram. My accounts add me as a friend. I add everybody, because I want you to be able, and a lot of them are public accounts, so you can see what's going on. And then I have some websites. We have Jayme Linker, that's a website that has eating disorder. It's got nutrition, personal training. It's got all the different aspects and things that we do. And then the nonprofit website will be going up. It's called Bear Moose Hideaway, and that will be going up here right when I get home as well. So that will be, and then you can donate on those pages. Reach out to me and we can find different ways to donate if you are wanting tax write-offs and things like that. We have an account and all that set up. So
I love it. That is amazing to have that opportunity for, everyone to really connect with you by having those open, social medias and really creating that space that they have that. So I'll make sure all of that is linked below, of course, in the bio of this episode, so they can have all the spelling of your fabulous name. I love when people have, unique spelling to their name, I like that too. So so we'll make sure all the right spelling is in there and people have the opportunity to connect with you. And can they watch your journey across the ocean if they follow you on these sites? What does that look like? How can they watch Jayme swim with the sharks?
Yes, so you can. So it will be posted on my page. It will be shared with my page. The race organizers are called Atlantic Campaigns. So they have a Facebook following and they will have live video posts while we're in Monterey getting our boats ready. They'll have videos of us getting ready up until we launch. And then once we launch, they will have videos and they'll have posts and blogs set up of what they hear from the teams while we're out in the water. Our team name is Aloha Kai. And so we have a Facebook page and you can follow it there, which is updated. We will have internet-ish on the water. It's a BGAN system. And so we will be uploading certain photos and stuff on the boat live. So we'll be able to do that. So if you follow that journey as well. And then there's an app called YB Tracker app, and it's where you put in the race and you can see every single boat any hour of the day as we're going across, what our average mileage, estimated days of arrival. So you can watch the entire fleet as we cross and race to the finish.
So how many fleets? So how many boats are there total?
Teams?
14. Okay.
14.
And then I think you had shared with me that only if you've gone on across an ocean before, that's the only way you can be a 2-person team, right?
Yes.
Yep.
Yes, that's correct.
And so on this race, there'll be some 4-people team, or the 3 people. What does that look like?
So there are 2 pairs teams, and we're both mixed pairs teams. There are 3-man teams, 4-man teams, and 5-man teams.
Oh, wow. Okay.
There's one 5-man team.
Yeah. That's a very packed boat, clown car vibe boat.
Yes, I like doing, everyone asks if I would do bigger teams, and I've thought about it and stuff, and I'm like, if I have to, but I love pairs teams because I get my own cabin. That way I'm sleeping on my own grossness and I'm not sharing. So,
exactly.
Yeah, the 5-man teams, I think that'd be a hard one for me to swallow, but they're amazing. And if you want to win, the more manpower you have, bigger engine you've got. So there's a trade-off, I guess.
Yeah. I don't know. Sleeping in other people's weirdness for 45 days in the water. Like I'm not doing any of this. I'm proud when I can stand up on my paddleboard, to be very clear. So, but I act like, when I do this, I want my own. But I mean, I think I totally get where you're coming from on that. And I would want the same thing. So Jayme, as we close out today, what is one takeaway that you want listeners, all kinds of listeners, what's one takeaway that you want them to leave with from today's episode?
Just that, don't give up, right? It doesn't matter what adversity you have or what obstacle you face. There is always a way outside the box to make it happen. So you can have everything in life, the life that you want, you can have your dream. You just need to, don't take no for an answer and keep pushing until you can achieve your goals, because it's not impossible. you can make anything happen if you're resourceful enough. And, again, I'm always here. If you guys need any help with anything, please reach out.
Even if you're the person telling yourself no, don't take no for an answer.
Exactly. Yeah, you can't. Don't talk yourself out of it. You need it, and you will thank yourself for it.
That's right. I love that. Well, Jayme, thank you so much for joining today on Gen Authentic, and thank you for being one of the voices of a generation working more authentically through life.
Thank you.
Thank you for listening to another episode of Gen Authentic. If something in today's episode resonated with you, share it with a friend. If you hated it, share it with an enemy. And if you want to get a hold of me, you can find me at Stef Authentically on Instagram and TikTok. Until next time, thank you for being the voices of a generation working more authentically through life.